Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me on my weekly guitar blog. It's October 27th, 2013, and this week we're going to discuss how to use altered tension tones. And this question was sent in from Philip. He's in Los Angeles, California, and he wrote in with this email: I've just switched from electric bass to electric guitar in my senior jazz band and was hoping for some help with altered tensions. My band teacher wants me to hit the altered tones when I play some worked out parts in my improvisation sections. Only thing is, I'm not even all that sure as to what altered tension is. Could you explain this and show how I can hit altered tones? Thanks, from Philip in Los Angeles, California. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Philip. You know, before we jump into altered tension tones, we should first discuss their precursor, the natural tension tones. Now, these natural tension tones are notes that we will often simply refer to in harmony as extensions, and they're the tones of 9th, 11th, and 13th. Now, these tones are then altered by raising or lowering them from their original state. Now, the altered tensions would become sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 11, and flat 13. They're very common to find in both jazz and blues playing and are primarily found built upon the dominant 7th quality of chord and applied melodically around the use of the scale type of Mixolydian mode. So to move on with this, let's zoom in on the guitar next to find out how we can target the appearance of these altered tension tones. Well, let's begin with a look at the flat 9 altered tone. All the examples will be from the dominant 7th chord quality off of the root of E. So my first chord will be the E7 flat 9. Here's how this chord looks and sounds. We've got E to a G sharp to a D, and then there's an F on top. The F is the flat 9. And to basically target any altered tone, we need to know the tone's relation to the chord as well as to the Mixolydian scale. In this case, the flat 9 is the lowered 2nd degree of Mixolydian, and it's an F natural. So now we can create a phrase that targets this note. So here's the first example phrase. It goes like this. You can hear it targeting right into that flat 9 note of F on the 5th string, 8th fret. And it's important to understand, too, that, you know, it's not great to just learn one line to cover a chord, because what if there's more than one of those chords that's going to occur in a close proximity? You know, we should always be able to make a simple modification or two to any line that we create so we can cover any secondary appearances of that chord. Now, I have a modification that I'm going to do both to rhythm and to the resolution tone. Instead of the resolution tone like we had in our first example being F, I'm going to make it the root of the chord, the E. And I'm going to modify the way the rhythm structure is off the top there too. I'm going to play triplets, 1 and a 2 and then I'm going to come into a D note, the flat 7, and off the flat 9, resolve to the root of the chord. So, you know, it's really good to do this because you never know when you might need to cover a secondary appearance, and it's always nice to have a couple of different phrases if you're going to be doing any kind of coverage of a certain type of altered chord in a piece, at least to the point of, you know, when you get really familiar with this stuff so that you can start inventing this kind of more on the fly. Of course, all your improvisations are always starting out as composed ideas, so get working on understanding how to create these lines. It's going to be a huge benefit for you. Now, next, let's move on to the altered tension tone of the sharp 9. Our chord type will be, of course, the E dominant 7th sharp 9. Pretty much that same chord again, E, G sharp, D note, and then we have that F double sharp, or you call it a G, at the top end there. It's a unique sounding chord because it both contains a major third and a minor third tone against that root. Once again, though, the procedure is the same. You know, so we're just going to determine the altered tension tone that we want to highlight and then apply that tone into the notes of the Mixolydian mode off of the same root. So here's an example of a phrase that can cover the appearance of E dominant 7th sharp 9. You can hear we're coming into that altered tone there. So that's a G or F double sharp that we're resolving to, and that's our altered tension tone. So let's also try, one other type of a line. Like I'd mentioned before, it's really important to work on more than one version of a phrase to not only, build a solid vocabulary for these sounds when you're developing them, but as well to have more than one phrase to cover any other appearances of the same chord type. Now, the next time around, what we're going to do is come into the flat 7 tone of D to resolve this phrase here. Very simple little phrase. And you can hear what we're doing for the appearance of the altered is very brief. We're just having it off the top to pedal off the note on the 8th fret of 2nd string there, the F double sharp, and then the hammer on, and then into that D note, the flat 7. Okay, next let's move on to the world of the sharp 11th altered tension tone. And sticking to the same E root, we'll have our example cover an E dominant 7th sharp 11th. Now it's a bit of a stretch to do this chord because of the major third in it. So it takes a little bit of a hand stretch there to get used to that shape. But again, we have our root note. We've got our flat 7 tone of D, the E to the D there, and then we've got our G sharp up top. That's the note that's kind of out of position, is a little bit of a crazy stretch to do. And then up top there, we've got our sharp 11. So the sharp 11 in this case is an A sharp note, and we're targeting into that. We're going to have a guitar lick that's a lot of 16th notes up front. Again, a little bit of a stretch here. We're on the 2nd string going 11, 7, 9, 7. Pedaling off the root off the 3rd string, 9th fret there. Just like that. And then we're going to have a slide on 3rd string, and then coming into that sharp 11. Now the whole lick is going to sound like this. One more time. You're going to have to determine, what your favorite fingerings are. Get some practice on that chord, and learn, of course, the chords. Learn all these kinds of chords in a lot of different locations on the neck. I'm just showing you one. Get yourself a good chord book and discover a whole bunch of locations. Begin with a goal when you're learning any new chord type of developing a shape for it off of the 6th and the 5th and the 4th strings. So you have roots off of each of those, and then you won't get locked down into one position on the neck with whatever chord you're learning. But anyway, here we go into the last example. I'll be having a look at the last type of altered tension tone, which is the flat 13. So once again, off of the root of an E dominant 7th chord, we're going to add the flat 13, giving us E dominant 7 flat 13, just like so. And the look of the chord is like this. We have the E to the D again, G sharp, and then on top, we've got a C natural. That's our flat 13. Now in this case, that altered tension tone of flat 13 is the note of C, so in building the melodic phrase from the notes of the E Mixolydian scale, we want to create a melodic phrase, as we've done so before with the previous examples, that will showcase a strong presence of that flat 13 altered tone. So here's an example for you to try out that places a strong emphasis upon that C natural tone. It's a relatively easy phrase. It goes like this: from the C note of the 5th fret of the 3rd string. Pretty straightforward phrase. We're having that hammer on. On the 4th string, that's the 6th fret to 7th fret. You can hear us kind of rolling from the C around that major 3rd into the 4th degree of the scale, back to the C. Then we're going to slide from the flat 7 tone into the root. Then we'll have our major 3rd and up top our C once again. So it's a really connected phrase. And locks down on that chord real nice. Well, as you can tell, that Mixolydian mode is a very important foundation for jazz and blues music when adding in the altered tensions. Now, since Mixolydian is the scale of the dominant chord, and these altered tones are primarily found upon, of course, dominant 7th chords, It only stands to reason that we tend to exclusively see those flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13 extensions as altered tones, of course, used along with this scale and with that particular chord quality. Now, in developing the use of altered tension tones in your lead playing or in the creation of composed parts, we need to be able to first identify and then, of course, isolate the note that is the tension tone so that we can, of course, exploit it, as we go through the playing of the lines that we're building. And all it takes is some dedicated study, and I'm sure in no time you'll have the skills in place to do just that. Now, anyway, that's about all the time I have once more here for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a really great week, and I will catch up with you next time. Bye for now.